everybody. Welcome to another episode of Repeater. My name is Evan.
And I'm Pat.
And today on the show, we are so happy to be joined by the incredible Allie Gordon. Allie, hello.
Hi. Very happy to be here. Very surprised. I think I have I think I have really terrible taste in music. So I was genuinely shocked to see your email come through.
We have not talked about our taste in music yet, so...
I mean, you've got your countdowns and stuff, and I've always been like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I liked that. Yeah, that was cool. You know.
It's usually other people showing up with those songs.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, okay, take it back.
Yeah. Yeah, we suck. To take that. That's all. Let's reset.
Just
we all
prepare
suck.
to be disappointed.
But no, thank you for joining us. Allie is a performer, just incredibly hilarious person here in New York City, and incredibly musically talented. So even if your taste in music is terrible, Allie, you are yourself an incredible musician. So
that's very sweet. Thank you very much.
Well,
and my taste in music is, I wanted to say it one more time, bad. So I just want to get that out of the way before we get into this episode.
Well, everyone's going to get to know you right now.
Yeah.
The first thing we like to do when we get started is just to talk about something briefly that we've been listening to lately. So a bit of a shout out to, something that's been on your ears. Pat, what have you been listening to?
Well, I mean, due to coronavirus, a lot of my shipments were significantly delayed, and they all appeared within the past 2 weeks. So a wide variety of things all came on vinyl. I'm going to just shout them out individually. I got a Gouge Away LP and 2 EPs. That's a hardcore band from Florida. I got one from Peaced Out, which is a side project of the Movie Life guys. I also got one from Katie Harkin, her debut solo album, just named Harkin. It's really good if you like kind of dreamy indie pop. And then I also got 2 records from friends of the show, Proper. Very excited about those. Proper's a really fun Brooklyn band. And their second LP, which I was just listening to, is this beautiful kind of marbly pink, which has nothing to do with the music, but I think it's really pretty. So go buy it.
Cool. So you got a good shipment of punk stuff, it sounds like, recently.
Yeah, I needed to make room in my record shelf.
Sure. I really didn't think about this until 5 minutes before we were recording, per usual. And I was just like, what was the most recent thing I listened to? And the most recent thing I think I listened to all the way through was Lady Gaga's new album, which at the time of recording just dropped a few days ago. Chromatica, I believe it's called. And I'll tell you what, it's a fun album.
Yeah.
A lot of good dance pop. Feels very kind of like, I don't know, throwbacky to like an era where I was alive and remember it, but wasn't old enough to probably be out anywhere enjoying it type of thing. So I don't know, the 90s at some point. But it's very cool. I really enjoy it. The big lead single I think everyone's been talking about is Rain on Me, which is a collab with Ariana. Am I correct about that, Allie?
Yes, you are correct.
Hell yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to.
I have a very good friend who we were taking a walk in March, trying to be like 6 feet-ish apart from each other. And he very excitedly was like, people have told me that they just saw Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande leaving the same building at the same time. And I was like, okay. Ooh. And he was like, no, that means they're working together. So like, it's secret now, but it won't be for long. And I'm glad that they were vindicated and that is correct.
Yeah, that is great.
And I wish that's how that worked. If you like walked out of the same building as somebody, it meant you work together on something, right? Because that means me and Paul Rudd would have worked on something by now.
Me and Richard Kind have worked on so many things together, if that's true.
Yeah, me and all the people in my apartment building are putting together an album, apparently. It's going to be great. Allie, what have you been listening to recently?
I have been running to the new Fiona Apple. Wow, I can't talk. I have been running to the new Fiona Apple album a lot. I would not call it traditionally like pump up running music, but it's so full of emotion that you like kind of get swept up in it. And I do think it makes you like run harder and faster.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Yeah, that album rules.
Yeah, it really rules. And I don't
Damn,
not
you have
say
good
it's like
taste in music.
Wow, thank you so much. I think it's going to be the coolest thing I say this entire episode. So I'm really trying to get it I'm trying to get it done at the top.
Uh-huh.
Everybody, please still keep listening because I swear we'll be back into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's what I think about myself. I think I am extremely well informed. And I think that the opinions that I have on the things that I have opinions on are maybe not necessarily unique, but like come from an interested and passionate and educated place. However, it would be cool if like the thing that I knew so much about and could speak so intelligently on was like a punk band from Florida that somehow had like incredible influence on like later punk music in the scene, but it isn't. So, you know,
sure.
I'm not stupid, but I have bad taste.
I don't know. I think just real quick before we get into what you came to talk to us about, I mean, I think for me, quote unquote, good taste in music really comes down to like, well, what are you passionate about and what do you enjoy? And, you know, I'm kind of in that school of like, I don't really think there's any guilty pleasures. It's like you like it or you don't. And that's totally fair. I think like the way that the world kind of works, or I don't know, this is sort of a thought that I'm coming up with right now, but you get this idea that like, you know, punk music is cool and other types of music maybe aren't as cool or edgy or whatever. And really it doesn't necessarily matter, right? Like, yeah. There's just sort of different levels of being able to experience music where for me, it was very much these shows are cheap and I can go to these shows and I happen to also enjoy the sounds that are coming out of them. But I don't think that like devalues any enjoyment of more highfalutin music where you go to Carnegie Hall and see like a chamber music night. Like, I don't think there's any real differentiation between any level of interest in either of those things.
Yeah. I also feel like, sorry that we're like getting into talking about it, but we're not even like talking about it yet. I feel like something that like makes something, I don't know, the word cool doesn't make sense in this situation, but makes it like a little more defensible, or like you're like, no, I really like this, is like a sense of genuine sincerity. And so like when you think of like genuinely great punk or something like that, or like being like 14 years old and being like, holy shit, this is knocking my socks off. It's because they were like speaking to and performing in a way that you were like, oh my God, they get it. And like there was like a sincerity there, and like you wouldn't necessarily like, I think put that word with punk otherwise, but it's like if you were saying like those are the shows that were cheap that you could like afford to get into, what you saw on that stage was somebody who you were like, I could be them, I want to be them, they're speaking like truth to power, their music is like exciting me, like that's like, this is like a sincere connection. And the genre that we are speaking of today that I am bringing to the table is either blisteringly sincere in a way that like either like really, really works or makes people really put off by it, or is not sincere enough and comes across as unbelievably corny and ungenuine, which is like the crux, I think, of it as an art form, period. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so let's let the people in on the secret, but we're trying to do some different things here on Repeater while everyone's kind of like remotely in their home, and so we're changing up the topics. We're kind of doing different themes, and today, we asked Allie to come on. We asked you to come on specifically to talk about live performance, like a favorite live performance of yours, because you love the live performance stuff, and you yourself are a live performer, so. I think what we're getting at a little bit here is musical theater.
Yes.
Is the genre we are getting at, which I love. We've had a few different musical theater folks on the show, and it's always a great time. But could you tell us the performance that you wanted to talk about today?
Sure. So this was very difficult to narrow down. I also really, really wanted to choose something that had a video that people could go later watch. I've seen a lot of things live that were amazing and then subsequently like lost to time and I didn't think it would be as fun or as exciting to talk about something that I was like, oh my God, it was amazing. I wish you could have been there. I want, especially since I know this is probably a genre people are like not going to be either as knowledgeable about or less likely to seek out on their own necessarily. I wanted it to be like, hey, if that excited you, go watch it. So the performance that we have settled on is specifically Elaine Stritch performing the song I'm Still Here from the musical Follies, which is a Sondheim musical from the 70s. Sondheim is definitely my favorite musical theater composer. There are a lot of others who I think are equally brilliant, but I think like hit for hit, Sondheim has most of my favorite musicals. And even in musicals that aren't my favorite, like Follies, there are songs like this in it that are so iconic. And when I was trying to decide what we were going to talk about, I sent Evan a couple options and I like gave my reasonings behind like why I thought each live performance was so brilliant. And part of what I think makes this one so brilliant is it's like the perfect marriage of a well-written song, lyric, music, so on and so forth, and a performer who does it in such a way that you feel that they are interpreting it from their soul. Like they could be making it up in the moment. The thoughts are coming to them organically in the moment. It's not like a song that somebody learned and rehearsed at a piano and is now performing for you in a musical. It's like she's living it. So it's like a brilliant marriage of song and performer.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And we will we'll put the link to the video in the description of this episode. And we're going to listen to just a little bit of it right now.
I've been through Reno, I've been through Beverly Hills, and I'm here. Reefers and vino, rescuers, religion, and pills, but I'm here. Been called a pinko, commie too, got through it stinko by my pool. I should have gone to an acting school. That seems clear. And still, someone said she's sincere. So I'm here.
Okay, so it's excellent, right? I mean, the performance, I had a great time watching this. It's from 2010, I believe, right?
Yes, this was the 80th birthday concert. They just had his 90th birthday concert, or they attempted to. It was done via Zoom. It just started an hour and a half late because of technical issues.
Oh, no.
Nothing has ever proven the need for stage managers more than this Zoom concert for Sondheim's 90th birthday. It was just like a bunch of actors in their apartment being like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So yeah, that was a little sad.
Shout out to stage managers.
Shout out to stage managers. I'm sure there's one stage manager listening to this being like, thank you. But yes, so this is like, there's a DVD of this. It was performed at Carnegie Hall. Oh, no, sorry, I lied. It was performed at Avery Fisher Hall at Lincoln Center. And there's a larger concert, but there's a segment in it that people have started to call like the Ladies in Red segment, because all of the women who are performing this series of songs back to back are all wearing red dresses, except for Elaine Stritch, who's wearing a red pantsuit and her iconic hat, but in red this time. Which is great. I feel like already you know it's going to be good because it's like, yeah, of course you're wearing that. And I also think part of what makes this such a fun thing to watch is that the other performers are sitting behind her and you're watching them have a blast while she is performing. These are all parts of why I think the video is so, it's such like a good live performance.
Yeah, it's really cool because everybody, you should go and watch this, but real quick, she's like center stage with this half circle of the other women sitting there like laughing their asses off at this, because it's a subtle song, but she hits these notes like the punches and the jokes so perfectly, and sort of the orchestra you can see behind sort of in the dark. There is I really enjoyed, there's a cut to the conductor who's just sort of like bebopping along to the song, and he's having like everybody's having so much fun, and her attitude is perfect.
Yeah, I like the song is excellent. If you heard anybody perform it, I think it would be almost undeniable as like a person listening to it that it's like an extremely well written and well told song. The lyrics are witty without being annoyingly so. Like it's not like, look how me, I'm smart. It covers so much in so much specificity, like from like the 30s to the 60s, because it's essentially detailing a woman who's been in the performing arts her entire life. And it starts off as just being like, I'm old, but I'm still here. And you kind of like laugh. And it turns into like the amount of things she's overcome as a person, as a woman, as a performer, somebody who's gone from like a sex symbol to playing the mom to go to like, there's another lyric where it's like, first you're like the sexy person, then you're somebody's mom, then you're camp. And it's like all this, it's a really well written song. And I've seen a lot of people do it really badly. But at the end of it, you're still like, that song's amazing. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the thing with Sondheim is it's like more often than not, you can come away with like, that was really well written. But in this instance, like her attitude matches the song personally. Her dryness, like the natural dryness that she has in everything you've ever seen her perform, matches the song perfectly. And she's old. I don't mean that like derogatorily. Like she genuinely feels like a person who could have and has lived many of the specifics in the song. And so like watching her do it genuinely feels like a testament not just to the fictional person of the song, but like of Elaine Stritch genuinely. Like it feels almost like watching a tribute to her, which is I kind of think also why like when the other performers are watching her, there's like so much joy because it's like, hell yeah, I'm sitting on stage with Elaine Stritch. Like, look at her go. I'm watching her do the thing that she like is famous for, which is like stand and deliver.
It really felt that way. You said something to me when you were like, we were messaging about this, and I think it was that the song takes you on a journey a bit. And I was, I'm watching the beginning of it and I'm like, this is great. I'm enjoying this, waiting for the journey. And by the time I was like in it and invested, I had sort of like, I was just swept up in it. And it is the experience, I think, of watching her really be that embodiment of the song and the people around her. It just feels like the people on stage, the people in front of her in the audience, and you at home, even watching on video, you're just like rooting for her.
100%.
And it sounds weird almost because she's such a pro that she's going to pull it off. You know what I mean?
Yes,
but
totally.
You still like can't help but be like, yes, yeah, she's doing it. Like, go.
I think it's because she just like embodies the journey of the song so fully. Like no more moment of it seems insincere at all. You feel like it's this like very exciting thing of like, does she understand the character so well that that's why all these moments are so deeply inhabited? Or is it really just her and we're really just like celebrating her journey and being like thankful for this iconic musical theater, TV, everything performer? And like the song kind of exists in that moment to service her, which like I can't think of a lot of performers where that would be as fulfilling in a way. Like, when you see somebody perform and you can tell they know they're talented and like, how like immediately you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I feel like this is one of those rare instances where you like only want to cheer for her talent more because she knows she's good and she's made it this long. And like the song is a testament to like longevity and determination and things like that. And so it's like, there's no part of it where you're like, oh, shut up. You're like, you want, or you like are rooting for her. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think something that you said was really interesting was talking about other people doing the song, and maybe it's not a great performance, but the song is still really good. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing about songs, like going to Bruce Springsteen's Broadway show where it's all stripped down and they're still incredible songs, but the instrumentation is really different. That's something that's always been really fascinating to me. Looking at this song, or at least this sort of concept, there's a Mountain Goat song called This Year.
Hell yeah.
Great. The chorus of the song.
You got good taste.
Okay, maybe my taste is great.
It is. I told you. The chorus of the song, for anybody that doesn't know, is I'm going to make it through this year if it kills me, which as I was watching this, it almost seems like, I don't want to say the same story, but looking at situations from two different sides. Like one of it, the Mountain Goat song being a mantra, I'm going to make it through this. I will do this. And this one where it's sort of this lived experience, like you were saying. And so I think that's a really interesting lens to look at it. And I pulled up your note about the song because I really want to get this verbatim in here, that you said that this is a good reminder, too, that the true skill of interpreting a song is not always about vocal prowess. And I think that's a really awesome way to look at it because, like you said, this song very much feels like somebody sort of kind of spitballing it, like off the top of the head. It really feels that natural coming out of her voice. And not everybody can achieve that. And I don't know how to do that. And
Definitely.
It's so awesome to watch somebody be able to thread the needle like that.
100%. And also I think that note stands on its own because like no one in the world would say like their favorite vocalist is Elaine Stritch, but they might say their favorite performer is Elaine Stritch. And that has a lot more to do with like what she naturally brings to the table and how she interprets a song and like how she makes it her own. And it also it was sort of in direct correlation with full disclosure. I could not pick a video. And so I I managed to narrow it down to a top 3. I like made a YouTube playlist and I had like 15 and then I had 10 and then I had 3 and then I sent those 3. And in an earlier example, which again, for people who are, I guess, passionate about musical theater, if you want to Google it, it's the performer Judy Kuhn performing the song Vanilla Ice Cream from She Loves Me, which is like classic Golden Age Broadway and an extremely difficult song to sing. It is like the centerpiece of the show. It is like the song for this character. If you were like the performer who was going to audition for this role, they would have you come in and sing that song to hear you nail the note at the end because you can't play the role unless you can sing that song. And that video is a great example, I think, of a person who has incredible vocal facility, but is still completely and totally servicing the journey of the song and the character's emotions. And it feels so spontaneous and joyous. And you get the added bonus of, oh, isn't it amazing that she's singing? Do you know what I mean? Like the singing is secondary to the story, but nonetheless, you are so impressed by it. And in this instance, you know, I was like, you know, and here's a good example of a person who like lives it and embodies it. And you are thrilled by the performance and probably is singing lower notes than what we talked in this conversation naturally in the range of our voices. So you like it, that's another reason why I think musical theater is like, when it is done well and written well, it is incredible, is because like, you know, there's going to be a certain kind of like vocal facility or like quality that will align with many different types of music. And like musical theater is so varied that we can pretty comfortably say like any voice can exist in like the pantheon of musical theater. And like it has, because it's gone from like the 1910s to now. And now they need people who can sing Alanis Morissette on Broadway. But back in the day, they needed people who were like, I don't know, amazing with patter songs or operetta. And so it's like, it's kind of like all voices welcome.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool part of it, because I think too that for a lot of people that are like me, who maybe Pat, I don't want to speak for you, but not extremely well versed in musical theater, my assumption is you have to be an incredible singer to be on Broadway. You know, like that's my assumption. And so it is very cool to see a variety of different performances to understand that that's not always the case, you know. It's kind of like, I think it's almost omitting that theater part where you're like, oh yeah, right, theater. That's also a part of it.
Exactly.
It's not all just about the music. Because I think we're kind of like trained through pop culture to understand that popular music, you don't necessarily have to be great. Like whole waves of folk and punk music, people are not particularly good vocalists at all. And we're like, yeah, but they can do it. And we think for some reason to stand on a stage in New York City, you have to be an exceptional singer always, you know?
I mean, if you want to know a little bit of like the insider drama's not the right word, but like there's a feeling that we are not writing musical theater to raise the kind of performers that are Elaine Stritches. and that we don't know what our like iconic Broadway performers will look like in 25 years, because the people who tend to be on Broadway right now are sort of like vocals first. And that doesn't mean like these people can't act. Like, I'm sure if you went to go see a show on Broadway in the last year and a half, you've seen a performance that has like completely and totally knocked your socks off. So this is not like shadiness, but almost always in every show now, the lead character is like such an amazing, unbelievable goddamn singer. And so like the feeling is, yes, now you have to be the singer. And that like interpreting the song, although still important, it still has to come after like being incredible. And that like just like the trend right now, probably because it mimics more like what's popular in pop culture, which is like being amazing at singing and like pop singing. We were not like writing material to showcase people like whoever the next Elaine Stritch is.
Yeah.
And so if we don't make space for her, we won't have her at the 80th anniversary concert singing a song like I'm Still Here, because we're not making the room to celebrate a person like that. And if Evan did admit that he fell down a rabbit hole of watching some of the other concert videos.
I did watch some of the other videos of the Ladies in Red specifically.
It's great. And like, even then, those people who are behind her are known for being, they're singers. They're amazing singers. But even then, somebody like Bernadette Peters is such a strange voice, and like some would even call like an acquired taste, but not in the 70s and 80s and like early 90s. She was like the cream of the crop, toast of the town. Like it would be crazy for you to be like, I just don't care for her. I'm sure people don't, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
right. No, yeah, totally.
Those idiosyncratic sort of performances and voices, like if we don't start to make room for them now, they won't be icons when they're 50. They'll just be nobody.
Right.
Do you think any of that has to do with like just the amount of money it takes to put on a musical?
100%.
Like, yeah, because like I imagine it's kind of like pop radio where it's the pretty voices sell easier.
Broadway is inherently commercial. And when people say that, sometimes people are like, well, what about this amazing show and this amazing show and this show won the Pulitzer? And it's like, no. Nobody's saying that because it's commercial, it's shit. It's just that like Broadway has to be commercial because they have to sell the size of a Broadway house. And they have to therefore be able to appeal to a wide enough demographic or be able to market the show in such a way that they can guarantee that between the months of October and the New Year, when we get like the huge like tourist New Year's Christmas rush, the seats will be filled enough to like keep the show running, which is why there's so many adaptations of movies or stars in shows, or even just like a material that is manageable. And you won't see anything that's like, or that's not true. You will rarely see something that like challenges the status quo in a major way on Broadway. And if it does, it's because it was so unbelievably revolutionarily adored and necessary. Like something like Slave Play would have like never gone straight to Broadway. And if it wasn't for its like incendiary and like you have to get a ticket off Broadway run, nobody who's a producer would have ever trusted that material on a Broadway stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For
we went last year, I think it was, to Be More Chill, which kind of had, I can't remember the exact or storyline of this, but it was kind of like off Broadway, on again, off again sort of thing. And then there's one song in the show called Michael in the Bathroom, about like a teenager that's at a party, doesn't want to be there, and he's just singing to himself alone in the bathroom. It blew up on YouTube to the point that they got a Broadway show out of it. Which is to think about how popular things can be produced and how Broadway does things, from my limited knowledge of that's such a crazy way for that to happen.
Totally.
And then to be there in that moment, speaking of just seeing things live, like the energy you feel is so incredible. Yeah.
I mean, again, this is me saying that I have like information and knowledge, even though my taste is bad. So like there was a long time where Broadway music was popular music. And so it was already the thing you bought the sheet music for and brought home to play at the piano with your friends after the dinner party. And you bought the LP and you went home and you listened to Camelot. You know what I mean? Like there was a very long time where like what you would hear, quote unquote, on the radio is Broadway material. And we've crossed out of that. We crossed out of it starting in like the late 60s and like 70s. And by the 80s, no longer was Broadway music popular music. And so now when things like blow up or get attention, it's not because it's like getting radio play or because everybody knows who Frank Lesser is and like has to buy and see the next Frank Lesser show on like their album and bring it home and listen to it. But like YouTube became a huge part of like people discovering shows. I went to the University of Michigan and there was a class before I got there who was the first class to start putting stuff on YouTube. I think it was like the class of like 09. I'm not sure. But they would like they would like do a concert at like a tiny little concert hall in Carytown, Michigan, right next to Ann Arbor. And they'd be like, okay, we're going to really go through like the contemporary musical theater songbook and try and find things nobody's heard. And then like a girl would sing the song Blue Hair by Joe Iconis, who wrote Be More Chill. And then that video would go viral. And then people would be like, who the fuck is Joe Iconis? And then they'd go to his website where he was selling his music for $2.99. And 100 girls would buy the song Blue Hair because they saw this girl on YouTube sing it. And then Joe would have clout suddenly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like he would go from just being like a composer who was trying his shit in New York and doing some concerts at Ars Nova and like being like, here, look at my stuff, to being like, I made $300 in the last 3 days because so many girls want to sing this song. And then suddenly you have something like marketable or an agent to tell, or you know what I mean? Like technology and like spreading stuff in that way has like really changed what gets to be like, this is popular or this has an audience or whatever it is.
It kind of, part of this, just like talking about this commercialization and popularization, it reminds me sort of like the initial question that prompted this selection, right? Which is specifically a live performance. And the reason is, it's kind of like if we were to do a cast recording, or even if somebody was going to do like a recording of Follies throughout the years, independently, you know, like a smorgasbord of performers, even if they were going to do something like that, I don't know that they would have brought Elaine Stritch into a studio and had her sing this song. And if they did, I don't know if that's the version that everyone would want to listen to. And like, if that's even like the Broadway fans, right? It's like, it probably wouldn't be the beloved version of the song that everyone knows and everyone loves. Mm-hmm. And yet there's no denying that to watch her perform it is so incredibly like wonderful, and that anyone who's a fan of it would love it. And it might be their favorite version of the song, you know, specifically. And it's just that idea of like, what is live is so difficult to be captured oftentimes. And it is often not the popular thing.
Right.
I'm even reminded of like rock music that when I remember being like a teenager, you know, and still bands put out live albums and I would buy them sometimes, or like a live DVD of a rock band. And now I'm just like, who releases live albums anymore? Like if they're not like a jazz or jam band or something like that, I just am like, I don't know, like who's a band? Does like Imagine Dragons put out live albums? And I'm sure they do, but does anyone buy them? Right. Does anyone listen to them? Like, is there a market for that at all?
Right. Like, is that the preferred method of consumption? And like, again, as another glimpse into my bad taste in music, I love the band Fish, and I've seen them like probably like 15 to 17 times live, maybe more. And then like, that's a weird space where it's like, if you say your favorite version of a song is the studio version, people are like, ew.
Oh. Eat shit.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like what's your fucking problem?
100%. It's like, fuck you.
Well, I have a friend that has gone to see Fish. I mean, the last time I asked her, it was, I think, 112 times.
Yeah. I'm like a nobody in comparison when I say that I've seen him like 20 times.
Which is still, and like for any other band, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But I was trying really hard because I was like, well, I mean, I have nothing against it, but like, so let me try. And so I downloaded a bunch of their albums and put it on my phone, and I was listening to it, and I was like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And she was like, well, let me look. Show me what you put on your phone. She's like, these are all the studio albums. Of course you don't like this.
Exactly.
You need this one from New Hampshire. You need this one from here. And I was like, okay. All right.
Which is also the fun part of it, is that like it becomes this like you're always on the hunt for the best, most like iconic version of that live performance. And so you'll be like, I love this version of Rift from, like 1997. And they're like, ugh, boo, that song peaked in 95. And you'll be like, you kidding me? Like the best riffs were in 95. And they're like, yeah, you have to listen to this one from Salt Lake City. It's like, okay. But again, I think that like my enjoyment of that and like that same joy is like the same thing that makes me like musical theater. And like, no, I can tell you every word of I'm Still Here, but the idea that the next person I see do it live could bring something totally new to it. And it could be a whole new song to me. That is like somehow the same foundation as me being like, oh man, they played Taste in Delaware and it rocked. You gotta see this 98 Taste. Well,
I mean, I love that you are a big Fish fan. As somebody who myself went to high school with a bunch of, like, that was my group of friends, was the Fish fans. And I've only seen them like a paltry 3 times. It's truly embarrassing. I don't even know why I even mention it, but it's, and like, I think all of us obviously love to go see stuff live, but it's still, sometimes it's hard to like, or it's hard to explain to people why seeing live shows is, I guess, so captivating and why it has like its own, it kind of has like its own addiction sort of to it, or has its own, quality of the thing you get hooked on. And some bands, it's just not going to be there. Some performances, it's just not going to be there. It's like, yeah, their studio stuff is better or equally good. And then there are these other performances where it just has to be experienced live. But I don't know, Allie, what I love is like, I don't know how common the crossover is between musical theater fans and Fish fans.
Me
like,
neither. I think I probably honest, know all of them.
Yeah, I think you're part of a very small cross section of fandom, and it's awesome.
It's very strange, but I really do think it comes down to that thing of like, it's best consumed live. And like when people, like when you're like a kid, when you were like me as a kid, listening to music, like to albums and like the cast recordings and stuff, like the first thing you think when you hear a really good cast recording of a show is, I have to see it live. You're never like, that was awesome, done. Like, and so like, I do think that there's like something very interesting in these like genres that specifically when you hear it, you're like, God damn, I have to see that live. There are Fish songs that I love that I still haven't seen live and like are on my like Fish bucket list. And that like somehow still keeps driving me to be like, I know, I love that song. I've never seen it live. Like I have to see it.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about shows too, where like you'll hear like a revival is coming and you're like, oh my God, I have to see that live.
So I feel this way a little bit about Sondheim in general, especially as like not a big musical theater person. I hear so many people who I guess I just like have known them usually through the improv or comedy world, and their person in musical theater is Sondheim. And so I go like a couple times a year, I'll try to listen to a soundtrack or two or something like that, or like a greatest hits kind of like YouTube, and I try to get into it. And there's a part of me that I'm like, oh, I think I get why people like it, but it still evades me a little bit. And he's a little heady, right?
Totally.
In terms of the world of musical theater. Like,
totally.
If you don't know musical theater, it might be a little hard to grasp at first, something like that.
He's not always like musically the most accessible, and his lyrics tend to be quite like, you must pay attention. Like, and that's also what makes people love him, is that it's like, it feels like genuine subtext and like wittiness that isn't inaccessible or like playful. And that like in a great Sondheim song, you learn so much about the character, whether that's because they're saying what they feel or you're like reading between the lines and you're getting all the subtext of like, they're saying this, but clearly the performance is this. And like, he is truly like a master of that in terms of like storytelling. But no, like no one's ever like, oh man, like your first musical, like we're going to go see A Little Night Music on Broadway, like Sondheim's 1973 hit. It's like, it would just be too much. But I feel like that's like probably true of a lot of genres where it's just like, there's that person who's like the pinnacle, but like isn't where you start mostly.
Yeah. And I think it's a misconception I know that I have or have had, and probably many people have, about musical theater is like, I don't know, there's something about it. Like the point is to be big and, I don't know, big and presentational and really like hitting you over the head with what the thing is supposed to be, you know? And I think because I grew up listening to so much like rock music that I'm like, oh yeah, well, some rock music is like that, but there's a million permutations of rock music. And it's just like, when you know something, you understand that there's complexities and variety and all this stuff. And when you don't, you kind of boil it down to like the few touchstones, you know, of the genre or whatever. And for whatever reason, it wasn't until probably sometime in my very early 30s where I didn't even like know who Sondheim. I mean, I knew his name, but I couldn't have told you a single musical. And now it's like, I feel like every fourth person that talks about musical theater talks about Assassins.
Yeah, I mean, and Assassins is like so great. And I think another part of, I think I really love musical theater, unfortunately. But part of the reason that like Assassins is so good, besides being like, who the fuck would write this musical that features and is from the perspective of like famous presidential assassins throughout time. So already you're just like, this guy's crazy. Can't wait to see what happens. But that, again, because he's so good at writing for character, you get this very interesting and challenging experience as a person in the audience, where sometimes you get really wrapped up in what the character is singing about, to the point where you have to go, oh my God, wait a minute. They're a fucking lunatic. Do you know what I mean? And like, and like, he's so good at like at writing from a character's point of view. And then if you see a good performer, it's like doubly entrancing that like you're listening to the guy who's playing like John Wilkes Booth, and you're like getting caught up in his emotions. And then you have like a moment as like the person in the audience of being like, you are a villain. You are the villain. You were like the blueprint for all the other villains who followed. But like you do get like lost in it for a second, because like that is what that's what kind of like what music does to you, I feel, even more than plays. Like you can see plays and get like lost in an actor's performance, but sometimes like a song will truly like sweep you up, and you'll be like lost at like like how grand it sounds and the lush orchestrations and the amazing singing. And then you have to be like, I am listening to something from the perspective of a person who does not share my perspective. Which is why Assassins is like really good, and I don't think anybody else could have written it.
Can you tell everyone just a little bit of what Follies is about? Because we haven't like really talked about the show at all. Yeah. So
Follies is about a bunch of older showgirls reuniting to celebrate it's not the Ziegfeld Follies, it's like a fictionalized version of it, but it's essentially that. And so they range in age.
Kind of a take on that.
Yeah, they range in age from like late 50s, early 60s to like 90s. And it's like people who appeared in these like 1920s reviews where it's like beautiful girls singing their like little charm songs. And it's like a lot of reminiscing, and sometimes it's like ghosts of the young performers behind the older performers in present day. And the main storyline is about two couples who are very unhappy in their marriages. That's essentially it. And this song is sung by a character who is like a tertiary character. I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's not even like the protagonist's song. It's not even like the song that defines the emotional journey of the show. It's sung by a character who's one of the older performers, just like kind of as a testament to the kind of women who persevered throughout like this time period. And even more interestingly, like it was a song that was written when they were doing their Boston tryouts, because they cut a song that wasn't working with audiences. And they had a really big star in this small role. And so it was kind of like expected that if Sondheim was going to write a song for this character, it better be good. That's kind of it. And then like it was a huge hit and people loved it, which is great. Like, right? Like to think that even like this song that we're loving and talking about so much isn't even like the point of the show. It's like, damn, that's great.
Which is so that contrast with what you were talking about earlier, Vanilla Ice Cream. That is like the focal or that's like a big moment in that play, right?
Like emotionally and like vocally speaking, it's like a huge part. The character is soprano throughout, so like obviously you got to be a good singer, you got to be a good soprano. But like the writing makes it that's like her highest note. It's like a moment of triumph. It's kind of like how, like, are you
Yeah.
familiar with My Fair Lady at all? That, like, her
Not
music.
particularly, no.
So, like, in Eliza Doolittle's transformation, everybody knows, like, the rind and spine falls mindly on the pine. Like, when she goes from, like, Cockney, she sings in, like, sort of her chest voice. And as she becomes this, like, woman, as she has changed, her voice gets higher and more operatic, and which culminates with the song I Could Have Danced All Night. And so, like, those high notes are reserved for that emotional moment as well. It's kind of like that, too, with, like, Vanilla Ice Cream, that it's, like, obviously she has to have these notes, but, like, that vocal moment is also saved for her emotional moment. It's like the pinnacle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is another, I mean, again, people will put the link in the description, but that is another, it's such a good performance. I mean, so, like, funny and it's so
simple.
So well done.
Yes.
So well done.
I think it is, like, just lovely. Also, people probably know Judy Kuhn best as the voice of Pocahontas in the Disney movie Pocahontas.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
She's great. She's such an unbelievably talented performer who can sing almost anything.
Well, I think just going off of, like, unbelievably talented and talking about live and musicals and things like that, I feel like if you're unfamiliar with musicals, maybe what kind of gets stuck in your head is something like Guys and Dolls, like the really big and she just sort of like, we got the big songs, which especially these days, they're not my thing. If you like them, no judgment. But I think what you get from seeing one of these shows live is also just the pure ability of these musical performers, because these two, there's performance and there's acting, but I also wanted to point out this other song you had sent us, Let's Raise a Glass from Grand Hotel.
Hell yeah.
Because the pantomime in that
it's so good
is perfect. I watched it twice and I was like, well, yeah, they had beer glasses. They did not, or well, glasses. I can't remember what they were drinking, but they had, I was convinced like, they had glasses. And then they start dancing to this point where they look like rag dolls, and they're belting their little hearts out. They're not missing a note. They're not missing a beat. And I was winded, and I was just sitting there watching it.
For anyone who's curious to see this one, we'll make that available. And Allie, can you set people up for like what this is?
Totally. So there's a musical called Grand Hotel, which is based off the movie Grand Hotel, which is a really great movie. Which is, I would say, like pretty much what you would expect of like a big, flashy Broadway show. It's got like a chorus who acts, sings, and dances. It's got a lot of big showstoppery numbers, including this Act 1 finale, which is called Let's Raise a Glass. They performed it at the Tony Awards to showcase this performer who went on to win a Tony Award later in the night. I mean, like, I think the song is really good. Obviously, like there's no part of it where I'm like, this isn't a good song or the lyrics are taking me out of it or whatever. But nothing about this performance is tied to the song. Do you know what I mean? Like what makes this performance so incredible is like the direction and the performance. I think that like the direction is really cool because yes, they chose to like unencumber. Is that a word? The performers by being like, we'll just do pantomime, and they're at a bar drinking. And like sort of wittily, they just kind of made it like a ballet bar. So you can like see their full bodies as opposed to it being like obscured by a set piece. And so it's like there's a lot of like really thoughtful direction that goes into this. And then this performance that is like knock your socks off, can't believe it's real. I truly, the first time I saw it, I was like, I need to understand how this is happening. Like there's no way he's actually just like doing that with his body, but he 100% is. And also like, because I went from being like a full-blown, like I have to be on Broadway musical theater as my life performer to somebody who developed a love for comedy. I watch this performance and I feel envious as a musical theater performer and a comedian. I'm like, it's better than me in both ways. It's like incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that language, envious. It's like, I don't, who could watch that and not want to be like, fuck, that guy is so good at two different things all at once. Like, it's so annoying. I mean, it's like, it's a performance that you equally like laugh at, and you're in your mind, you're going, wow, 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 wow.
Right. Wow, 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 wow is exactly right.
Yeah. It's incredible. I love it. Well, Allie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This was super fun.
These are so fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And just everyone, we're going to put the links in the in the description of the episode. Maybe we'll link out to a few live fish shows too while we're at it. If you have a few hours on your hands.
If you've got like 22 minutes on your hand, I can show you one song.
Yep. Some good ones like something beautiful, little bit of lyrics at the beginning, big long break, some lyrics at the end. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Allie, where can people keep up to date with what's going on in your world? And what other projects can people check you out on?
I am on Twitter at Miss Alice Nutting. That's MSALICENUTTING. It is a really obscure musical theater reference. When I made Twitter in the year 2008, I didn't know Twitter was going to be what it is now, and it's just too late now. So I'm just kind of stuck with that one. And the project that I'm working on right now that you can listen to from home and don't have to worry about when live theater will ever pick up again is I'm on a D&D comedy podcast called Second Best to D&D Adventure. That's on Twitter at Second Best D&D, but also you can just search those words and listen to the podcast. It's a bunch of comedians, all UCB performers. Who started it because we wanted to make something funny, not because we were like passionate about D&D. And it's been fun because like we've all become like really good and excited, like players who like are excited by the game. But it's like it's truly comedy first. So I think I only like things really that fun. I have to qualify being like, I know this could be stupid, but I actually like it.
Own it.
But yes, I really do love D&D quite a lot now, and very proud of the podcast. It's been going on for like 2.5 years now.
Yeah, it's so many hilarious performers. It's great, and this is a real D&D friendly show too.
Thank you.
Pat's in it.
Pat's in it.
I love it.
I'm glad.
I just introduced a unicorn named Gil in my game, so it's real serious.
You're the DM? You run the game?
Yeah, it's real stressful, but also I love it.
I know. I don't think I could ever do it. I think I enjoy causing chaos too much, and that's like my passion.
We'll do an offshoot episode about this, but what I really like is it's a fun creative writing prompt for me, and when people try to break it, that's a little more fun. They're breaking your puzzle as you go, and you try. It's almost like putting the tracks down as you're going. So it's fun. Yeah, everybody should try it.
Yeah, I think everybody should try it, and I think everybody should try and listen to one musical if you think you hate musicals because they're so varied. You can't hate them all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Musicals. You can't hate them all. That's the tagline.
That's Broadway's new like ad campaign.
Yep.
Oh my God. Well, Allie, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
You can find us at Repeater Show on Instagram and Twitter. Also, repeater.show is our URL. If you like this, subscribe, throw out a rating out there, and that's about it. Pat, you got anything else, buddy?
No, honestly, if you want to email us, hello@repeater.show. I don't know, talk to us. We're all stuck at home. Send us your music, whatever you're listening to, your favorite musicals. Let's get a conversation going.
Start a dialogue. Thank you for listening, everybody. Until next time, hit repeat.
Repeater is hosted by Evan Ford Barden and Patrick Cartelli. Theme music by the Sun Lions. Everything else by Love Nest Productions. Welcome to Repeater.
Thanks, Allie.
Yay.
That was so
okay,
fun.
I'm going to hit stop recording.